Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Tuesday, March 5th. This is episode 277 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining me today. I'm joined by a special guest, Tyson Rauch from Let's Talk Jets Radio. Tyson, thanks so much for coming on. Great to have you back on the show. And how's it going?
Bro, two things. First of all, your studio is 10 times better than mine. And it's like 277?
Yeah, yep.
Damn, dude, you're getting old.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been 277 and unfortunately a lot of suffering in these 277 episodes. Hopefully that changes here soon. But yes, going back to August of before 2022 season. So unfortunately 2 years of a lot of pain, but hopefully that changes. So but yeah, looking forward to getting into it in today's episode. Now, before we get into any of the Jet stuff, I wanted to open up by talking a little about your fundraiser. I know you're doing another fundraiser for a great cause, and I just wanted to kind of have you open up here, talk a little bit about it, and then to talk to people as well of how they can help support you and the cause as well.
Oh, dude, that's super cool. First of all, thank you very much for having me on. The fundraiser I'm doing March 22nd to the 24th. It's a version of the David Goggins Challenge, but actually harder. It'll be 5 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So it'll be 60 miles in 48 hours, which is pretty crazy. But the goal is to raise awareness for mental health. A lot of people suffer in silence. And I'm raising money for disabled American veterans. So there's an organization like 10 minutes from my house. I've met with them. And what they do is they help our veterans, whether it's, helping them find jobs, giving them transportation back and forth to hospitals, helping them deal with PTSD, helping them deal with, family issues, whatever else. So they give a lot back to the community, but, they need more help. So I'm going to raise money for that and just try to raise awareness. And it's DAV.org for those that are interested. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart, man. It's like a lot of people are suffering out there. So if I get a chance to, give back or help out, I just try to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. Definitely go show Tyson and this great cause some support. As always, you do a great job, obviously, in some of your previous fundraisers and, of course, this one as well coming up in a couple weeks. So now we move on here to this lovely football team that we all love to talk about, and that, of course, is the New York Jets entering another massive offseason, going for the three-peat offseason champions, as many would like to put it. So I wanted just to start here with your overall thoughts on this team, their needs heading into the offseason, and of course, heading into free agency, which is just about a week or so away, and in the draft, obviously, later on in April.
This is going to be probably the most fascinating offseason we're going to have in a long time because you have a team that's desperate to get talent, desperate to win, desperate to save their jobs, and the entire NFL knows that. So players that want to come here are going to hold out for more money or they're going to go somewhere else. Like there's going to be a lot of games that are going to be played. And it starts the offensive line. And we all know about it. It's no secret. But the Jets need 3 starters. And it's very hard. They had a hard enough time finding 1 or 2 over the last 3 or 4 years. Now you have to get 3 in 1 year, assimilate a line of 5 people, put them all together and say, you know what? Have a great year. Protect Aaron Rodgers so we can win football games. That's some lofty expectations, man. And this is where when you don't draft well and you don't make good free agent signings over the last 2 or 3 years, it bites you in the ass a little bit. And that's what they're facing. So AVT coming off a major injury, Tippmann year 2, you have a lot of faith in both of them, but, hoping that AVT stays healthy. After that, dude, we don't even know who the left tackle is going to be, the right tackle. Where's Tippmann going to play? There are so many frigging questions. And the biggest question is, what is Aaron Rodgers? Like, what version of Aaron Rodgers are we going to see? So as a fan, we're like, you try to get excited. Like, Aaron Rodgers coming back. In theory, we had a win now team. But the cynical Jet fan side of you looks at this realistically, says, you know what? There's a lot of holes. There's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of ifs. If Aaron Rodgers plays well, they have a chance. If he doesn't, everybody's getting fired and we're starting over next year. So it's fascinating, dude. It's just the Jets can leak all the stories they want, saying they're going to be aggressive in free agency. They're going to spend a lot of money. We're going to be big spenders. If guys don't want to come here, it doesn't matter what you're spending on. And then you don't want to make stupid decisions. You know what I mean? So I'm curious to see what the league perception is of this team. I think sometimes as fans, we overrate our organization, and you'll see definitively this year, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially with the unknown going into 2025, 2026, who the staff's going to be, who the quarterback is going to be. And as you mentioned, is somebody going to really want to come here, sign a 3-4 year deal with three of those 4 years, 75% of those years being a completely unknown of what's going to be around them, which makes it really difficult. Now, you mentioned the offensive line, which is where I wanted to start here. 13 different combos last year, only 22 touchdowns scored, not anywhere close to a combination, a ratio that is going to help you win football games. For a while there, you thought some people, maybe there was some thoughts around the Jets that maybe they would restructure Laken Tomlinson and they only need 2 offensive linemen. That, of course, didn't happen. Tomlinson was released, which was definitely the right move. So you're now left with 3 holes on the offensive line. As you mentioned, Tippmann, AVT are there. Where do you see AVT falling into place? Do you feel that is more something that happens after free agency? And then who are some guys that you're targeting, both free agency and then, of course, the Jets, or of course in the draft where the Jets hold the 10th overall pick?
And that's like the $1 million question, right? Because I think what the Jets are going to do is they know that Tippmann and AVT are both versatile. They're going to swing big in free agency. They'll go after Tyron Smith. They'll go after all these guys. And once the dust settles, be like, all right, we got X. We can move AVT here, this and that. A part of me wants him to play left guard. That's kind of where I want him to play. I don't think it's going to happen, though. You get this funny feeling he's going out to right tackle. I just get that funny feeling. I don't know why. But I think free agency determines a lot because depending on who you believe, the draft is loaded with very good tackles, but a lot of right tackles not left. So, what do you want to do with that? Do the Jets give, monumental money to Tyron Smith and say, you know what, here's a 5-year deal, X amount of dollars, just come here, we need you desperately? I don't know, man. I'm just so skeptical of how this is all going to work out. I think ideally, if you look at free agency, the guard position is a lot stronger than the tackle position. So if you go guards in free agency and then you go tackle, and you say AVT go to right tackle, get your left tackle in the draft, maybe that's how you do it, and you keep Tippmann at center. I mean, that's probably going to be your best bet, I would guess.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it all, especially with Douglas, where he's got to bring in 3 very good offensive linemen in one off season. He's had a tough time doing that since he's gotten here in 2019. You look at the draft, obviously Alt, Fashanu are the consensus, I feel like 1 and 2 by many people. And then you have the Fuaga and the JC Latham. Do you have any guys that you prefer? Like, do you prefer Fuaga over Latham over Fuaga, or are you kind of good with it, whatever, just get me a tackle and hopefully they can play and be out there consistently on the field producing?
I mean, I'm kind of old school where it's like, I like the guy to play left tackle in college and play left tackle in the pros. The transition from right to left just bothers me, just come old and stubborn. So that's, once you have Fashanu and Alt are gone, then you get nervous a little bit. And then see the question I always ask everybody is like, how much is the drop off? And this is where the Jets not having a 2nd round pick really kills them. Because if you just say you wanted to go wide receiver, tight end at 10, just say in theory you could do that. 2nd round, you go offensive line. You're like, we're not worried about it. Because we feel comfortable with the talent in the offensive line group. You don't have that 2nd round pick. So now your 1st round pick is like, it's like premium above premium of what you want to do with it. And I don't know, man. It's just how much you think the drop off is. And if you have, would you say if you got Fuaga and say, okay, you're going to play right tackle, we're moving what? AVT to left? Like, what's your, you don't know what the plan's going to be. Like, what do you think? I mean, it just seems like it's more right tackle than left in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, really outside of All and Fashanu, it's primarily all right. I mean, I know some people believe Mims, just because of his athleticism, could potentially slide over to left, but Mims, only played 800 snaps in college. He barely played. He, of course, got hurt, had to get surgery. So he's more of it feels like a low floor, high ceiling, and you don't want that because you kind of had that happen with Becton where you didn't really know what the weight, the injuries, and of course it blew up in their face. Unfortunately, Mims kind of is along that same path. You can make the case, I guess, too, for Latham. I like Fuaga, but yeah, if they're right tackles, especially with the offensive line coach, Keith Harder, you really trust them to move him over to left tackle and then have them develop under this coaching staff. It causes some of those complications, which is maybe where the Jets say, like you mentioned, have AV2 go to left guard, sign a Tyron Smith left tackle, and you have Fuaga, and then you pick up a low cost, right guard potentially in free agency.
Yeah, but there's also one caveat: the guy you draft has to play. Like week 1. I mean, see, I guess what the one selling point with the Jets could sell us on, if they get maybe not a day 1 start in the draft, but maybe like takes a couple weeks, and you go out and get your Bakhtiari and be like, all right, he's the placeholder until this young kid can play. We can teach him the ropes. We have that kind of insurance policy. But that's the problem with the Jets are at right now. It's like the guys you get for your offensive line have to play now. There's like, oh, you know what? We can groom you for next year. Kind of need you this year, man, because we may not be here next year. You know what I mean? So you can't go with the projects and the hopefuls. You got to go with the kind of like the slam dunks if possible. And that could change Joe Douglas's approach He may not take risks this year because he can't. And that's the problem when you have a general manager on a hot seat and a head coach on a hot seat.
Yeah, it's tough because, maybe do you ever see a world where maybe they trade up to try and get a Fasciano and solidify that? Because again, these other guys are more toss-ups and don't fill that blindside need for Rodgers at left. You see a world where they maybe trade up and then take a Fasciano, or all falls to 7 or something like that, and they take a chance?
The only way I trade up is if it includes maybe a player and next year's pick. I don't give it. We need the picks this year. We need it for special teams. You need just players in general. Like, you can't, but you don't have enough resources. Not having a second round pick is a killer. You give up one of your forts, then you're really limiting your resources that you desperately need. If you want to talk about next year's pick, I mean, the Jets will do that because they may not be here. They won't care. But you know what? You want next year's third rounder? Cool, move up. But I mean, and it depends what's your conviction on Alt or Fasciano. I'm a Notre Dame guy, so I'm biased. But if that's your legitimate answer, and guys like that could be there for the next 5-10 years being your left tackle, make the move. You know what I mean? That's not it's hard to dispute it. When the thing gets interesting is it at 7? Like, how far up do you want to trade up? Like 7, 6? Like, at some point, the reward is just too much. The compensation will be too much.
Yeah, and I think that's too got to be some of Douglas's approach, as you mentioned, where maybe you give up a next year's pick, because that his focus has got to be strictly on this season, because those picks next year, as I think Bills GM Brandon Beane said at the draft, how like you don't know where you're going to be next year. Like Douglas, 100%. He doesn't care about those picks because he might not be here to make those picks. So it's tough. It's a lot of pressure and very limited time, really only 2 months, that could definitely dictate his job and where he'll be next season. So another need here on offense is you move over to the skill position, and that's a compliment to Garrett Wilson. Now, all signs point to them bringing in a number 2 alongside him through free agency, and in a draft pick, probably with that 3rd round pick, potentially bringing in a 3rd round receiver. Are there some guys that you like out of free agency? Now, of course, Tittman got tagged, Higgins got tagged, Evans is back with Tampa. No real surprises there. Guys, that's where you leave with your Ridleys, your Boyds, your Beckhams, your Samuels. Out of those guys, who do you like? And are there any maybe surprise you see, like a Devontae Adams potentially? What are your thoughts on how the Jets will address that number 2 receiver?
I mean, the market dried up pretty quick. And now you have Calvin Ridley's going to probably be like the king of the class. He's going to get drastically overpaid by somebody. I don't think it's going to be the Jets, though. I think this is like going back to the offensive line, like who you playing with those following years. As a wide receiver, if you're Ridley and you want to sign a 5-year deal, you only really know what 2 years, maybe say 2 years of Aaron Rodgers and 3 years of what? Receivers want they want money, obviously, but they want stats and they want winning. If you're not sure your quarterback's going to be 3 of the 5 years you're here, probably not going to sign here, right? So I think that's going to probably alienate the Jets from him. I think you're looking at the Curtis Samuel, Tyler Boyd, guys like that. Kendrick Bourne's a guy people are mentioning now. But to me, if Joe Douglas, I think you should go a different route. I think you should look at the trade market. And I'm a Courtland Sutton fan. I've liked him. It's like, I guess, what you're looking for opposite of Garrett Wilson. Sutton's big. He's fast. He's physical. He's got under contract for 2 more years. He's still young. Like, that's the kind of guy I want. And you're not really in competition for him. It's a trade. You know what I mean? I think the Jets in an open market are going to struggle a little bit. So I look at the trade market. And then after that, I mean, you've got to really rely. I mean, maybe the draft may be the answer, because look at the free agent class you just talked about. No names are going to surprise you. And when the market is this limited, these guys are going to get overpaid. And you're like, it's like the Lazard contract. Looks terrible now. It's bad, right? It's like, you know, there's like a Marquez Valdez Scantling, whatever his name is, MVS. No, don't want him. We know what he does. He drops the ball, right?
Yeah.
So
Lazard, the 2.0.
Yeah. So it's like you need, and I know Beckham wanted to come here. He wanted to play with Rodgers. But if you watch him in Baltimore, is he a legitimate number 2? Probably not. He's probably a, 2B. Like he's a good number 3 to kind of fill in, but I don't think he's the big guy that you want to take off pressure of Garrett Wilson. What do you think? I mean, you've got to be kind of creative with this one. You got to, and it's also not a bad thing if you go to the B tier and get quality receivers. Quality meaning good route runners and good hands. We didn't have that last year. I mean, you had guys that couldn't catch the basic ball anymore. So that's an upgrade in itself.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think you really were spot on there, especially with Evans being off the market. Those guys, Higgins and Pittman, they all felt kind of like pipe dreams, like they were never going to come here. You knew that they were going to either get tagged or, of course, in Evans' case, get another contract with Tampa to stay there. I really like Courtland Sutton too, and is a guy that, of course, you see Russell Wilson's out of there. It seems like they're kind of going through a little bit of a rebuild, a little bit of a retool. You might see both Judy and Sutton go. potentially put a package there. And then, of course, as you mentioned, through the draft, which I would really like to see them use that 3rd-round pick on a receiver. There's a couple guys that I really like that they could potentially bring in. But, yeah, it's interesting. Is there any guy, like, do you see a world where there is any situation where they actually go out and trade for Davante Adams? Because I see it's probably unlikely. But then again, you always see these hints that, him and Rodgers are close. They're always talking and all this stuff. And it kind of gets you to that point that maybe something gets done. But it feels like he believes in Antonio Pierce in Vegas.
Yeah, I think if anything happens at the trade deadline, it's not going to happen before the season. I think he bought in the all campaign. Him and Crosby, everybody's like, get him back, get Antonio Pierce back, and they all seem happy. They're winning too, having fun, winning. You figure they'll get an upgraded quarterback, maybe a little bit Justin Fields goes there or whatever. So I think Adams will stay there and be a good teammate now. And then if things start off really slow and they're really bad, and it's then whatever week 10 they think about it, but not. I don't think before the season it'll happen.
Yeah, I don't think anything. I agree there as well. I don't think there's going to be much there. It definitely feels like he's kind of gone back into Vegas after the McDaniels disaster that happened over there. So moving on here to quarterback before we move on to a couple of things on the defense side of the football. Of course, 4 snaps in, you lose Rodgers, no backup quarterback. Everybody was saying it for months. You mentioned it really since last April to bring in a Teddy Bridgewater, bring in a Gardner Minshew, and then of course it blows up in the Jets' face. Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, a circus. You've got a chance this year to bring in a Tannehill, bring in a Brissett. Are there any guys that you like? And then do you see a scenario where they bring in, are you in favor of a potential developmental pick day 3, bring in a guy, sit behind Rodgers, and see what happens, over the next couple seasons?
Well, this is where it gets interesting because you have guys like Tyrod Taylor out there, but you also have a lot of teams that don't have a quarterback, don't have a starting quarterback. So would Brissett want to go to New England and compete for a starting job? Say, no, you can start until you don't start anymore. So you get the legitimate chance to play where coming to the Jets, you're not playing unless last year happens again. Like it's a pretty good chance you may only play 2 or 3 games this year where other teams you can play. Like even Gardner Minshew. I love Gardner Minshew last year. We wanted him for $3 million. But now he had that starting game success, all these things. Does he want to stay in the Colts where he's got a chance to play even when Richardson returns? Like, playing time means a lot, I think, to guys. And then it's like Tannehill makes a lot of sense because he's older. He has a lot of ties to the Jets coaching staff. But again, does he want that last run of playing time? Maybe he goes to Pittsburgh. Maybe there's places where he could probably say, you know what, I'll be your stopgap quarterback. And the teams want that. Russell Wilson, absolutely not. No. Never in a million years do that. But it's going to be interesting. Tyrod Taylor seems to make a lot of sense. He's already around here. I watched him play this year a lot more than I wanted to, but he's good quarterback, can manage a game, good arm. He could run, which is good. A lot of dumb mistakes, but it's a backup quarterback. The only issue with him is he gets hurt a lot too. So if you have to see him play 8-9 games, you get a little nervous. But I mean, what do you think? It's just I'm curious to see who wants to play more than is just willing to be just a backup and sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I don't the back. Of course, it's a need, but I mean, if Rodgers goes down again, it's over. Like it's just done. Even if he goes down for 4 or 5 games, just in my mind, I can't just imagine Rodgers going down again for an extended period of time. That'd be awful. But in the case that happens, I really like Brissett just because he's got a high floor. Yeah. Like what you're gonna get out of him. Minshew, like you mentioned, I think he's gonna want a chance to go elsewhere. Yep. Be a stopgap, sending with Tannehill potentially. I do like Tyrod. Little bit of athletic ability, can run a little bit, kind of like a Teddy Bridgewater in a way, a little bit of an injury history, but can provide a bulk, can provide a little bit of energy into an offense that could potentially need it if their starter goes down. Yeah, I mean, I think for just best, like Sam Howell, I don't want that because I think you want the high floor guy. Sam Howell, I think, is probably a better option to bring in to sit and watch because if you need 4 or 5 games, you could trust Brissett, you could trust Tannehill. Howell can go out there and throw 3 interceptions and completely blow a game. So it's tough, but it's got to be a lot better, and you expect that it will be better. It's just unfortunate the Jets are acting a year late, but it is what it is, and we'll see. I think probably bring in a developmental pick as well.
Yeah,
that hopefully they don't see that. Hopefully they don't see the field this year at all. Just sit, watch, hold a clipboard, learn, which is what should have happened with Zach. But of course, that's hindsight 2020. So it is what it is. But anyway,
I will say this though: for any quarterback they sign, I'm giving him a 2-year deal. Whoever it is, Brissett, whatever it is, I want 2 years. Rodgers is here 2 years. I want you here 2 years. So we have that same backup quarterback. We have that veteran guy in the room. So we're not like chasing our tail again next year. Like, all right, these are our two guys for the next 2 years. Let's win a lot of football games.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't know, too. I mean, let's just say for a scenario here, Rodgers retires at the end of the year, then you potentially could have that guy slot in as your stopgap and be that bridge quarterback for whoever that might be. Now, that's definitely in the future, but there's options out there. Jets got to execute, got to bring somebody in, and hopefully they do that this time around. So moving on here to the defensive side of football, not a whole lot to talk about other than Bryce Huff, which is where we'll get to here. Defense coaching staff's very good on the defense side of football. The defense is one of the best in football. There's a lot to like there. It's the offense with all the needs. The one big thing, of course, is Huff. Just ask you straight up here. Do you think Huff is in green and white next season come week 1?
Nope. The Jets blew it. The Jets completely blew it. They could have got this deal done last year. They had so many chances to get a deal done with him, and they kept telling him, bet on yourself, bet on yourself. Well, guess what he did? He did that and played very well. And now he's going to go. He's been honest. He's going to go the biggest bidder. Why not? He's earned it. He climbed the ladder. He's done everything right. And he's not even playing the amount of snaps he should be playing. So I think the Jets blew it. I'd be shocked if he gets re-signed here. I'd like to see it because now what you're doing is you're counting on Will McDonald to have the same leap that Jermaine Johnson did. And that's great to think they're working out together, they're teammates, all this stuff, but there's no guarantees with this. The other thing is you have kind of some surplus. You have some depth at like a pass rusher where it's like you feel good about it. Like, all right, we haven't had pass rushers in a decade. Now we have a couple of them, and now it's like, we're going to let him walk away. We'll replace him easily. We know it's not the case. You're one Jermaine Johnson injury away from being like, you know what? Will McDonald's our guy now. It's not ideal, man. So I don't like the way they handled this. I mean, obviously you can go out and get some other guys, but I wish they'd find a way to get them done because I think now with the salary cap increase too, they actually could do it if they really, really wanted to. But I think they played their hand. They didn't tag him. So now he'll go to the open market and see what he can get. He's not going to give a discount.
Yeah, I agree. I unfortunately believe he won't be back either. And like you mentioned, you were spot on with the Jets just didn't play this correctly. It feels like the night they drafted Will McDonald last year, they were all eyes set on just letting Huff walk. And 100%. Even if he goes out there and puts up 10 sacks. And I don't know, for a while now, I just feel like the Jets have never really appreciated Bryce Huff's value. I don't know if that's like even, I know a lot of people talked about this. I know you've talked about this, but you even go back to last year, not the year from this preseason, 2022, he was playing in the fourth quarter of these preseason games. And it was like, what? It just doesn't make any sense. It feels like they've never appreciated his value, never utilized him to the best of his ability. I don't know. It always seemed like there was some sort of disconnect there. And I think just to him, I think he wants an opportunity to go elsewhere. Also, talk about the quarterback situation. He's going to want to sign 4 years with a place where he knows the future. Maybe he goes to a young team that's developing and getting better, as opposed to a team that's future is kind of up in the air, which is tough. But yeah, the Jets never handled this. I think at early or latest, they should have tried to get something done at the bye week last year. That was certainly discussion, but it's tough.
You're thinking about
relying a lot on Will McDonald.
Some of the things they've done, like look at the trade deadline last year. I mean, I understand they're trying to still stay in the hunt. You could have traded Cook. You could have traded Carl Lawson. You could have gotten more value than what you have now. Just letting the guys walk away. But they were like trying to portray like we're not panicking. Everything is good. We're still in the hunt, and Aaron Rodgers coming back and Christmas, all this other nonsense. But they made a lot of decisions of personnel wise that just they're all getting exposed now. Every wart is getting exposed right now. When you look at this roster, you look at the holes, and how they're going to handle it going forward. And it's now you need a pass rusher, and then like where do you get another one from? Are you going to draft one? Do you spend some money on it when you already have a guy proven in house?
Yeah, it's very questionable, and drafting wise, probably a late round pick that'll develop. But I mean, this was such a gem. 2020, he was an undrafted free agent. You bring him in, and just you think from Douglas's perspective as well. Everybody has pounded him for years of not hitting on late round picks. And something that he's done well is he's hit on, the very few of his undrafted free agents, very few of his late round picks that he landed. Well, obviously Huff was one of those undrafted free agents. You just think that he would want to keep him homegrown, keep him here, but it just unfortunately not going in that direction.
Especially this year and next year. Like this is like Super Bowl or bust years. Like you want your best possible chance to win. And the Jets having Huff on the team gives you that best chance to win. Because look at the playoffs, man. The defenses. Get after the quarterback. Defense, like speed on defense is paramount. You need it. Off the edge, pressure the quarterback. You have to have it. If you don't have that, you're going to lose in the playoffs. You have it, and you're letting it walk out the door. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like it's just bad business, man. You need to have better foresight to see what's going on. Be more, proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah, and to your point too with the championship, you look at all the great teams. They've all got those great edge rushers, and of course, you talk about the depth. You're one injury away now from being one of your deepest positions to one of your slimmest positions, which could certainly hurt. And there's some other free agents as well up front that we'll see if the Jets bring back, like Solomon Thomas Woods and Quentin Jefferson. But it's going to be interesting to see how the Jets approach potentially bringing in somebody else to fill the need or fill the hole that Huff's going to leave, which will be by McDonald, but then finding depth. So to close things out here, one more thing, kind of just an overall, I guess, general feeling. We've kind of discussed it a little bit, the front office, the coaching staff, but do you legitimately trust or have a good feeling that they are going to bring in the needs that they have? And then, by July, August, once training camp's here, we're going to feel similar to the way we did last year, where this team hopefully can make a run?
Which answer do you want? Do you want the honest to heart answer, or do you want like the podcast YouTube channel answer? Which answer do you want me to give you?
Honest answer.
I mean,
because I'm probably in the same boat. I'll be honest.
I'm ridiculously frustrated. I'm very skeptical. I think they have so many holes, and you can't address them all in one offseason. Their only hope is that Aaron Rodgers comes back fully healthy and plays at an all-pro level. If he doesn't do that, they're going to really struggle. And I guess my concern is I don't believe in the coaching staff. I don't believe in Saleh. I don't believe in Hackett. I don't believe in Carter. I don't believe in Downing. The offensive side's a mess. It's pure dysfunction on so many different levels. So I don't have any faith in that. So Rodgers has got to overcome all that. Then it's on Joe Douglas to find a way to build an offensive line, which he hasn't been able to do in how many years? 4 years? I mean, you're asking for a lot, man. And it's sad because the Jets have talent. They have some playmakers. You have Bryce Huff, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Sauce, but the dysfunction and the incompetence is concerning, and they've got to blow us away. I guess to me, it's like I'm tired of all the t-shirt slogans and all the social media stuff. Come out on the day one of free agency and go out and get Tyron Smith. Show your business. And if you can get a big time signing on day one of free agency, that opens everybody's eyes. You know what? Maybe we can believe in this Jets team. Maybe they can run this over and they can win games this year. But if you go through the first 2 or 3 days of free agency and we're like, all right, this guy's gone, this guy's gone, this guy's gone, and all the names everybody wants, you're like, man, offensive line's not going as we planned. Then you get a little bit nervous. And you're like, oh, we're gonna pay a Jets tax and we're gonna overpay for a guy we know is nowhere near worth that kind of money. So I don't know. I want to be positive. I'm getting destroyed on some of my YouTube channel stuff because I'm old, dude. I've seen a lot of this before. You know what I mean? So to me, they have a lot to prove. And it's like they have to really nail free agency with a lot of quality players, back it up with a really quality draft, and then coach them up and hope Aaron Rodgers comes back and plays really well. And that's it. That's just, it's a lot, man. And to me, it just seemed like, if I'm being completely honest with you, the Jets would have been better off firing Saleh this offseason, or at least firing Hackett, doing something other than what they're doing now. Because I think it's just the players are questioning the coaches, and the Jets as an organization doubled down or arrogant about it. We know what we're doing. Our process is too good to fail, or whatever the hell they said. And it's not true because they haven't won anything. And now the players are looking at him like, you know what are we doing here? Garrett Wilson and Bryce Huff were openly questioning the play calling. The offensive linemen are openly questioning the O-line coach. This is all happening throughout the season, and they both came back. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So it's hard to ignore it, man. And like I said, a great quarterback can overcome all of this, but you need a lot of help from your general manager and coach, and I don't have faith in either one of them. So it's tough to really, that's my honest answer. That's why I stayed away from videos for a while, because I'm like, you don't really want to know what I think, because it's hard. You see it, dude. You've seen it. I've seen it week in and week out last year. You saw all the problems. And it's just, and look, all the players are cutting. Tomlinson, they're cutting. CJ Uzama's gone now. Free agent in, free agent out. If draft pick in, draft pick out. It's not good, man.
Yeah, and to your point too, with the cuts, it's, while they are cutting them and it helps save cap space, it's just another reminder of another swing and miss for Douglas.
Exactly.
And that's I guess the glass half empty approach to it, which is kind of how I view it sometimes. Is Uzama was cut today, but it's he was another free agent signing by Douglas that didn't pan out, and that can't happen. The margin for error is zero.
Look at all Douglas's big time signings. Carl Lawson didn't work out. Tomlinson didn't work out. Right? All of them. Mm-hmm. It's just one after the other. It's you go down. What's this? Dwayne Brown, that didn't work out. Dalvin Cook, that didn't work out. It's one after the other. Now it's all right, he's made all these mistakes. Now he's got to have a 75% hit rate this year to make up for all of that, because we need it. If they don't have it, they're not going to win.
Yep. Yeah, and as you mentioned too, they're relying on one guy, and that's Aaron Rodgers to cover all this up, for a year or two. Hopefully they can make a run. And I guess just to add on here now, I know I said that was the final question, but I guess one more add on here quickly is, what is your level of faith for Rodgers to return to Aaron Rodgers, where he's back to the guy that won 2 MVPs in 3 seasons prior to obviously landing here last April?
I mean, you saw his commitment to the game last year, man. When he worked out, was rehabbing like crazy. He wanted to come back so bad for his teammates. I think he's an excellent leader. He's got a chip on his shoulder to prove everybody, like, you know what? 1 year off ACL, I'm playing better than ever. We'll have that MVP kind of like attitude amongst them. I think you have faith in that. It's just having faith in everything else around him. Can they protect him? What's a play calling going to be? Like, it's just, there's so many things that you hope that, you hope that him being in the building will change it. Like, you know what? You're calling this play, I'm audibling because this play is terrible. Or if a receiver doesn't run the right route, he's in his face like, clean your act up together. Clean this stuff up here because we can't keep doing this. I think that leadership could pay huge dividends and maybe clean up some of the mistakes. But then the question is, how bad is this coordinator altogether? And how is Saleh in a pinch? And the one thing we haven't even talked about is you're looking at, okay, win now year for the Jets. Win now, got to win all these big games. Saleh's never done it before.
No.
Can Saleh go in the playoffs and go toe-to-toe and beat Andy Reid or Zach Taylor or you name it, Harbaugh, either Harbaugh, right?
Yeah,
Can he,
Harbaugh.
Sean McDermott, both of them. Like, so now it's like, once you finally get all the pieces together and you get your team together, can this coach actually coach in a big moment, in a big spot, where the last 2 years in big spots, his teams completely fell apart and got their asses kicked? Let's not forget a couple years ago, right? The Jaguar game at night, complete disaster. They go out to Seattle, embarrass themselves. Last year, a lot of big games. Playoffs on the line, still in the hunt. They don't win those games. And Saleh proved he's a good head coach this year, too, which is a question we don't know the answer to that either. So it's a lot, man. It's like there's so many things that have to go in the Jets' favor for them to win 11 games, win the division, win a playoff game. They need a lot of good fortunes for that to happen.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned some of the Saleh stuff too. Like you said, the Jaguar game, the Seahawks game. You even go back that same season where you had the Lions game, some of the questionable clock management down the stretch, the tight end scoring a touchdown. Even like you said there too, the Raider game, the questionable clock management there, unfortunately blowing the game. You wonder how much of Rodgers can cover that up. One of the things I really hope Rodgers does, the audible at the line, I think will definitely help because Hackett's play calling is horrendous. And I just hope that every play call Rodgers hears, all right, doing something different, because he runs miles around Hackett when it comes to football knowledge and what he sees at the line as to what, Hackett sees up top, which unfortunately we didn't have a quarterback capable of really doing that this year. And you just hope that they can get on a run here a little bit and find a way. And, it's tough, but you have Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame quarterback. I guess there's going to be a chance there. So we'll see. But to close things out, where can everybody find all your work, social media, and of course, YouTube as well?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, man. It's been a half hour. That flew. It was so fast. Just Let's Talk Jets, man. We're all over. We're at Talk Jets Radio on Instagram and Twitter. Let's Talk Jets on YouTube, and that's just where we're at. We're uncensored. We just post videos. We don't do a lot of like very intricate X's and O's, more opinion-based stuff just on experience, what we see. We have a lot of fun too. So that's probably the most important part of all this.
Yep. Yeah, gotta find ways to have fun during some of these tough years. It's not easy, but you guys do a great job. So definitely go check them out. I appreciate you coming on, and look forward to doing this again sometime soon. Maybe as the season gets closer here, and hopefully next time we talk on here, the Jets make some moves, and we're feeling a little bit more optimistic about the direction of this franchise as they creep closer to the summer. So that'll do it. Stay tuned for more content. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for tuning in.